30 more seconds. 30 more seconds. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So now I'm basically going to take an impromptu poll. If the answer to this question on a scale of 1 to 5, how connected are you to a community, is 1, I'd like you to raise your hand. If your answer to this question, can you hear me? No, no one can hear me. That's incredible, actually. That's weird. It's a private number. I promise that wasn't staged. So if the answer to this question, how connected do you feel to your community, is a 1, please raise your hand. There's a lot of peer pressure. No, it's okay. You can raise your hand. One sister, she's like, shh, and you're good. No judgment, okay? If the answer is a 2, please raise your hand. Okay. Who has a 3? Least amount of judgment in the middle. It's the Muslim path. If it's a 4. And if it's a 5, wow. And if you didn't raise your hand at all, raise your hand now. Yeah. So I'm joined with me today with Imam Abdul Malik Merchant. He is the lead chaplain at the Office of the Imams here at the Adams Center. And he's also one of the chillest guys I know, to be honest. He's always there it's a compliment. He's always there, after Jummah on Friday, just talking to people, because he truly is someone, in my opinion, who values community and understands how to connect to them, how to relate to them. And he's always ready to take a bullet for me. He never ends up taking it. He leaps in front of the bullet and then he falls down and then it hits me anyway. But I appreciate the consideration. And then I'm also joined by Omar Nassimi, who, if you don't know, didn't send me a bio, so I kind of stalked your LinkedIn and created one when I made the registration page. I think I did a pretty good job. I think that you should just copy and paste that everywhere. And he is currently working at DC Hill Oasis. Oasis. The DC Hill, that's controversial these days. Don't worry. No, he's currently working at Oasis. And if you don't know, Omar Nassimi was actually the programs manager of Qahwa before me. Many of the things that you see today implemented are the result of his work in spearheading everything at Qahwa. So I would give him a round of applause if you could. And listen, it's a very tough job. I know from my life. I used to text Omar and he would never respond to me. And I realized that wasn't an issue with him, rather it was an issue with the demands of being the Qahwa programs manager. Also to clarify, I don't technically know if you don't know me, my name's also Omar Farouk. Sorry, my name's also Omar. I always say that the reason they hired me after him was because they didn't want to change the email.
Not to be confusing, but my middle name is Farouk.
Well, I hate to disappoint you. I'm a little bit more confused now. And it is a very difficult job, I would say, to take up the reins after Omar Nassimi did his job. Because it's very difficult, honestly, to work with community. Omar Nassimi had a lot of authority, actually, when he was in this job, and I had to kind of lean my way into that. I remember the very first, month I was working here during Ramadan, I actually got kicked out of my office because the volunteers are emboldened during Ramadan. I was just chilling. I was just, texting on my phone. And then a volunteer came in. He's like, you can't be here. And I was like, what? I can't? And he's like, yeah, you can't be here. This is for employees only. Do you work at the front desk? And I was like, well, technically, no. I don't work at the front desk. And then he said, you got to leave. And listen, he spoke with so much authority. I thought he was right. I double checked. I'm like, they must have had a meeting when I wasn't looking. But I wasn't going to let that slide forever. Okay? So I'm like, I can't let these people do this to me. So then later, I'm in Qahwa, and a woman walks in, and the Qahwa's closed. No one should have been in there. And I told her, listen, sister, I'm very sorry. You have to leave. And then she made a face. She was like, and then she said, do you work here? And I was like, yes, I do. You think I work here? Thank you so much. I felt so proud. I felt like she was I didn't want to tick her off. So I asked her a question, tried to break the ice. It was a question I shouldn't have asked. What? No, don't worry. Okay. I asked her, I said, where are you from? Pro tip, never ask a Muslim woman with an American accent where they are from, okay? It's a loaded question, and she said, listen, I'm from New York. And I was like, that's crazy, because you look like you're from New Jersey.
This guy and his questions, man. Goodness gracious.
So what I'm trying to say is community is a very complicated thing. Everyone has opinions. Everyone wants to be involved, and that's a good thing. There are pros of communities. There are cons of communities. It's about balancing them. Half the audience wants a partition. The other half wants to meet their spouse. So you have to find compromises. No, and there is a compromise. It's a partition with holes in it.
He's been working on this one.
Listening members, I don't know why these guys keep wanting me to erect a partition. The last time the Desis tried to implement a partition, it did not go very well. I'm a little bit, I'm nervous. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Brother Omar Nassimi and Imam Abdul Malik Merchant, and they're going to talk to you about finding community.
All right, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is exciting to be with you all. I just wish I could see you. Is it possible to get, Fatah, is it possible to turn those lights on? If it's okay with you? If it's okay. I don't mean to disrupt your vibes. I just want to be able to see the people, yes. Oh, no? You guys don't like it? All right, turn them off, turn them off. That's how community is done right there. There you go. So, tonight, Imam and I have been talking a little bit about what we want to do tonight. My background is loosely, I'm a community organizer. I just recently learned what that term meant, and I've adopted it as like, this is what I do. But I am somebody who just really cares about people. I care about the outcomes of people's life. I care about people being happy. I care about like people having good experiences. And so I didn't know that could be a job. I didn't know that like one day you can just spend all your time thinking about how do you design better experiences for other people. And it largely comes from the fact that I didn't have it growing up. Like I grew up in this community in particular. I was here, how many of you all were here back on Grove Street? Raise your hand. Oh, wow, okay, 3 people from the sisters.
One's your sister.
And 1 brother, and 1's my sister, yeah. How many of you were here when Adams was in Sterling, like behind Burlington Coat Factory? Wow, 2. Allahu Akbar. 3. Okay, and then how many of you started coming to this community before this musalla? Okay, that's about half from the sisters. And the rest of the brothers just started coming here because they found out that they're disappointed about the partition, but that's okay. So my background, just briefly, is that I grew up in Adams Center, particularly since I was a little kid, since I was 6 years old. And yet, just because I had access to the community, my father, as some of you probably know, is an imam at Adams Center. I had all the resources. I knew people. Like, I was playing basketball here all the time. And yet, I'm probably case study number 1 of somebody who felt like I didn't belong to a community. I felt as though, like, I would come here, there's people here, we pray, but nobody cares about me. Nobody knows if I'm about to die tomorrow. No one knows if, like, you know, something terrible is happening in my life, or something great just happened in my life and I have nobody to share it with. And it just felt like that's not the way it's supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to feel as if, like, I belong to a group that cares about me. And that I care about the group. There's supposed to be some kind of reciprocity. And I've been wrestling with this question of, like, what does it actually mean to be part of a community? What does that look like? What does it feel like? And what did the Prophet Muhammad SAW actually do when he created community? And what does that actually, like, experientially at like an emotional, mental, spiritual level, what does that actually look like? And so that's a little bit about my journey, but and tonight, inshallah, we're going to explore a little bit about, like, why community is so hard. And as I've been working in the Muslim community for the past, 15 years now. Actually, my first job was I was 15. And my father told me that I can only get a job if it was productive, and by productive he meant that I was learning something Islamic. So the only job that I could get was in a Muslim community institution, and for the past 15 plus years I've only worked in Muslim institutions. And it's hard. It's extremely difficult. And that's a little bit what we're going to talk about tonight. But in getting into that, Imam Merchant, I wanted to know a little bit about, how did you get here, man? Where did this start for you? Were you born and we were man, one day I really want to become the next Dr. Sherman Jackson? Or were you I really just hate having nights and weekends free and I just want to dedicate all my time and energy to people? How did you start getting into this?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's an interesting question. There are two things. One, Allah bless my mom. She always had me in community. I grew up across the street from Dar al-Hijra, and I remember it's snowing on the ground, and I'm 14, and she's like, go to the masjid. I'm like, but it's Fajr, and I know the hadith, and she's like, I don't care, go. And so, alhamdulillah, I grew up in community, but in many ways similar to you, I never felt necessarily connected. And I went to Saudi to study, again, because of my mother, may Allah bless her. And I remember before I came home and I was looking to apply for jobs, I met Sheikh Yasser Fahmy, who was the new imam in Boston. And I told him, Sheikh, I didn't study hard. I cannot give fatwa. I don't know fiqh. But I deeply care about the disenfranchised. And he was like, well, what does that mean to you? And I said, particularly people of color, particularly those that are incarcerated, and particularly new Muslims. And he said, that's what I want you to do. And then when I started serving, the impetus and the motivation behind why I serve, when I reflect on it now, it really starts back when I was 16. When my grandfather had a stroke, we moved to DC, and the imam of my little local masjid, I was a 16-year-old in the masjid that everyone was an adult, and he would always be behind a door. I didn't feel like I had access to him when I needed that access. And then because I was the youngest in the masjid, I just wanted things to do. So I started organizing bike rides. I started organizing cookouts and handball competitions and all of these different things that I hadn't had but knew that I wanted them. And when I think back to it, that was my first experience of community. Trying to create something that I didn't have and really filling a void that just wasn't there. I wanted to be loved, and it was one or two people that showed me that attention that made me really want to dig deep and figure out, well, how can not only I feel this, but how can so many others feel it as well?
I've had very similar experiences, but can you talk to me a little bit about what does that look like and feel like when those couple of people invested into you?
You want to go deep. SubhanAllah, I attribute everything that I am to a handful of people in my life. Obviously, I've mentioned my mother already and believing in me and pushing me to go to Saudi to study before there was anything else. But even along that same time, there was just one uncle, Abdul Samad, Allah Yahfadhu, I don't know even where he is. We lost contact when I was in Saudi. But he was that one guy that was 5-10 years older than me that would go to Quran class with me and walk to the metro with me and go to the Islamic Center in downtown DC. And those things made me feel seen. And that pattern continued. Sheikh Farhan at Dar al-Hijra, I was a young kid in Saudi with nothing, and he needed a place to stay, so he moved in with me, and he was like, this guy's lost. And so he just started giving me a lot of tough love, which I really needed at the time. And one example is, he would stop whining. Stop whining. Stop whining. You keep whining. Stop whining. But he didn't just leave me. It wasn't just a critique. He would give me feedback. And he would advise me. I remember I didn't know how to use Google. And I was like, can you like look this up for me? He was like, I'm not your mother, bro. Go use Google. But he forced me to learn how to search Google in 2007. He forced me to continue to grow, to budget my money. And again, it's a pattern of someone investing in me, someone seeing me and teaching me the ropes, how to save money, how to do those things. Fast forward, I moved to Boston. And again, I'm not from Boston, I'm from the DMV. But I was hoping that I would have a mentor, someone that would believe in me and foster me. And a little unknown fact is the first year that wasn't there. Sheikh Yasser was a young imam himself who was incredibly busy and focused on building community himself, that he just sort of expected that I would understand. I've written about this extensively, but like, he's from Jersey and he's tough as nails. And I'm like a child of a single mother and super soft. And so he was like, yo, what's wrong with this guy? And it was me telling him, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, we're not connecting. I need you to invest in me. And I literally told him, like, I grew up without my dad. I need you to invest in me. And he was like, oh, okay. But then that second year, we would walk for 3 hours a week. And he would, like, critique my thoughts that I would bring back from grad school. And he continued to pour into me. And it wasn't necessarily tough love. But it wasn't necessarily like hitting me with the stick, do this and don't do that. It was more like, you have something. And subhanAllah, for the 5 years that I was in Boston with Sheikh Yasser, he never once told me I was smart. And I never understood that. Like, we're having these intellectual debates and just let me go. And then the last year we were there and I was like talking about something and philosophizing. He's like, you know you're smart, right? And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, I just didn't want to big your head up. But like those type of things and thoughtfulness behind investing in me really helped me. And until today, like when I'm going through stuff, I'll contact him for advice. But it's those people that not only allowed me to feel seen, but also to feel loved, and then to find unique qualities about me, even if I couldn't see them.
That's beautiful. And so I'm assuming then, as soon as you became an imam, and as soon as you got these awesome roles and titles and your names were on flyers everywhere, you felt like, man, this is awesome. I have community now. Little known fact, by the way, some of the loneliest people you'll ever meet are community people. You think just because they have a lot of contacts on their phone and they go to a lot of events and they speak a lot of stuff, guess how many dinner parties we get invited to, him and I? This is real stuff. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've been invited to someone's house in the past couple years while I was working here. So we're going to take a little transition now. This is the hard part. Imam mentioned, so like I said, I'm assuming it's all roses and daisies, right? You finally have a position where like your full-time job is just to spend time with people. That must mean that you have community, right? And it's so easy. Is that what it's been like?
No. I think community is something that inshallah, we'll continue to explore it in our conversation tonight. But actually, community is something that you have to pour into. And when you're at the service of the community, particularly in an age when we live in this very consumeristic relationship, we're very transactional in our nature of things. And so when your job is to serve, it's like the guy at the ticket aisle. You expect them to just do their job and to be nice about it too. And when you're in a religious position, then there's the ante is upped even more. You are now a representative of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I expect you to be nice and kind in small hours. I don't care if you're having problems at home with your kids or your wife. I don't care if you don't have enough money to buy another car. You should be happy. And I remember even talking about Sheikh Yasser, him highlighting how no one ever asked him how he was doing. Forget an invite, but no one even really cared. Like there's a kif hal, like how are you? But really, what's going on? How are you? What do you need? How can I invest in you? And I'd be remiss to look at our senior imams here. They've been serving Sheikh Imam Majid for 30 years, Sheikh Abdul Rafi for 20 years. Who knows about their lives? Do they own their homes or do they not? Where do they live? How many children do they have? Do we know those things? How are they happy? Do they have retirement? These are very real things that when you're serving the community, people often overlook. But it's even more difficult when you're in a place of religious authority. Because now there's not only an expectation of people, but there's a higher ethical standard that we have to have. because we're serving in this capacity, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, I can't even ask for certain things. This is
What do you mean?
meaning because I am someone who is giving you something and I'm the imam, I can't ask you for a business investment because then now there's a conflict of interest there. You may think that you have to because there's a power dynamic and I'm above you. And so that changes how I can even build community, because oftentimes community is built through difficulty. Oftentimes community is built when we're actually experiencing something together. But if the experience of community is monodirectional, is just one way, then it doesn't facilitate an opportunity for you to actually experience me. And then because my connection with the community is small touch points with thousands of people, how do you go beyond the superficial? And the point of even talking about this is not as a woe is me. Alhamdulillah, like I have my small group of people and I'm very fulfilled on that front, alhamdulillah. You actually, I'm sure you can attest to this, probably start to really hone in on who is your core people. You work on your family house situation. You have those group of 5 people that you're really locked in with. But I think that what's important about talking about this is, what about the rest of us? When we come to the masjid, how many of us are actually getting to know the people that we're sitting next to? If you just look to the people that you're sitting next to right now, I guarantee each and every one of you, at least one person next to you, you know. If there's at least one person next to you that you feel comfortable with, because that's why you sat there. Now, how many of us before we leave tonight, maybe because we have breakout circles, are actually going to spend time to get to know the other person that we don't? And our relationship with the community oftentimes is that way as well. Here you go.
So this is the point of what we're trying to get to, is that the experiences that I have, the experiences that a merchant has, oftentimes mimics the experience that everyone has in the community. It's not about woe is me, but it's about the reality of our community most of the time is that everyone around you is likely going through something difficult, hard, depressing, annoying, life-threatening sometimes. Or on the other side, their life might be great and they have no one to celebrate with. And oftentimes we displace the authority or the responsibility of who is supposed to be doing that work onto someone else. And we, for some reason, don't see ourselves as the person that's responsible for the person next to us. The Prophet ﷺ says, one of my favorite hadith, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. He says, none of you is a believer. This is like a serious statement, dude. Like in basketball, I always translate things in basketball terms. Like if in basketball, someone comes up to you like, man, you're not a real hooper, bro. Like if someone says that to you, that's like the ultimate. Man, like either you got to fight or you got to quit basketball or doing something. Like it's a real, for someone to tell you that you're not something is incredibly serious. So Prophet ﷺ, for him to say, none of you is a believer unless you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And I think about the amount of time that I spend thinking about what I want for my life, what I want my friend circle to look like, what kind of house I want to have one day, what kind of family I want to have, what I want my career to look like. I don't spend that much time thinking about other people's careers, other people's success, other people's happiness. Not in a way of like, obsessing over other people's happiness. I mean in terms of like, do I genuinely want Ali, who's right in front of me, to have the same happiness that I have? I would argue we are living in one of the most narcissistic times maybe ever, to the extent where if I have some good come my way, or if I know of an opportunity where there's like a discount at a grocery store or something, even to like the minute extent, I won't tell anybody about it. If I know of a job opportunity that is coming from my field and it's a really good job, but I know 10 other friends of mine who are in the same grad program or whatever that I'm in, am I telling them about the job opportunity? Like, what does it actually mean to love for your brother what you love for yourself? And most of the time, in my experience in the community, one of the hardest things that people have to overcome, including myself, and this is something I struggle with all the time, is not wanting, really, like truly in your heart, wanting other people to be successful. Like loving when they're successful. Because if I love it when my brother is successful, that would mean that I would put in just as much time to other people's success as I put into my own success. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is saying is that you're not even a believer if you don't do that. That's the bare minimum. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that our rizq is guaranteed. And wallahi, one of the hardest things I found being in community spaces is that the people around you don't want good for you. I'm talking about like religious, practicing Muslims who come here 5 times a day and pray and mashallah, hijab, beard, all of it. But do they want you to be happy? Do they want you to be successful? Or do they look for every opportunity to say, man, that light, if it was like a little bit that way, it would have been a little better. Like, if that program was just a little bit this way, it would have been better. Like, to actually want other people to do well is something that requires a defeat of the nafs. And that's so hard. Because I'll be honest with you, even me, like, in the work that I do, I find it so hard because immediately you start comparing yourself, right? You're like, man, dude, Roots isn't even that good, bro. I swear, bro. I've been down there one time. It's like their coffee's like whatever, their space is whatever, but Qahwa's like way better, bro. It's like it's part of human nature. It's part of human nature to automatically start comparing yourself and to not want the other group to do good. And do you think that, I mean, this is something that's, in my experience, that I find is really difficult. There's this ultra-competitiveness in the community space that makes people feel like it's a zero-sum game, that if I belong, that means that there has to be less space for you to belong if you're different.
No, I completely agree. I think this is one of the things that we have backwards. We have become so individualistic and so materialistic and so capitalistic, where we are thinking about ourselves as one. We're so focused on who we are and trying to get ahead in material things that now I want to gatekeep because there are limited resources. When the reality is that this is both a spiritual problem and a worldly problem. It's a spiritual problem because we're forgetting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Razzaq. We're forgetting that the provider, the one who even allowed us to have anything, is Allah. So for me to think that there are limited resources with the Creator necessarily means that there's a theological misalignment. That when I think I'm going to gatekeep some goodness from you because there's limited resources, I'm thinking that I actually have control over something. When the reality is the one who gave me can give you, and we both can give. And this is the worldly problem, because when we help others, it's not that resources decrease. When we help and serve others, the reality is our resources increase. Our network has now grown. I now know, because I paid it forward with you, that you can rely on me and I can rely on you. And so now we have a stronger connection as a community that we didn't have before. And so this spiritual struggle of fighting our nufus and fighting our egos and what we think about the world and how we perceive and creating community means that not thinking of it as a zero-sum game, not thinking of it as restricted or limited resources, but rather focusing on the provider of those resources. Focusing on how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can allow all of us to get together and all of us to eat. But we have to then fix and reprioritize, reshift our paradigm, our perspective of how it is that we're thinking about it all. And this is one of my biggest frustrations with the community. Now, I don't know if this is because we're the children of immigrants. I don't know if it's just post 9/11. I can't sort of pinpoint where in the zeitgeist this sort of happened. But we're all nafsi. It's all about me and what I want. And so, like, how many people have emailed me and been like, hey, I'm, graduating in IT. Do you have any references for me? I'm a business marketing major. Do you know who I can go to? And then I'm like, I don't know. That to me is a khasara. That is a huge waste and a huge misfortune for us as a community. But the problem is that, again, going back to our first point, we think of community and expect that the community will serve. The Abdul Malik, provide me with the list of resources. Brother Sajad's our new ED. Why didn't he create this in the 5 days he's been here already? The perfect system that will help our young professionals find jobs. But the reality is, how are we going to be agents of change? How are we going to be, I don't see it, khalas, I'm showing up tomorrow and I'm going to fix the light that I didn't like the day before. How are we going to say, well, I don't know, so I'm going to start this network of people that are going to do these things? MashaAllah, in Qahwa, we have a book club. That started from two sisters asking me, did you see, first we have a discussion on emotions and we have a book club. And some book, I don't even remember the book at this point what it was, like we should have a book club. I was like, let's do it. And now, mashallah, every 2 weeks we have 20, 30 people coming out, reading a book together. We finished 3 books. We have the Emotion series. Inside Out 2 came out. One person's like, let's have a discussion on Inside Out. We're like, well, we can't talk about Inside Out 2 if we didn't talk about Inside Out 1. We've had 3 or 4 lectures on emotions. Because people asked for these things. People said, let's do that. And a huge shout out to the Qahwa volunteers because that's how a lot of our programming even happens. And so when we're thinking about community, can we shift how it is to think not just, well, why doesn't Adams, why doesn't Dar Hijra, why doesn't MIC, why doesn't put whatever masjid that you are familiar with, why don't they have this thing that I want? To how can I be someone, even though I don't see it, I'm going to create it. And that's really, going back to the very first point that you mentioned, the number one motivating factor as to why I come to the masjid. Why I do the job that I do. Because I didn't feel loved in my masjid. I didn't have someone who saw me. I felt lonely. And so if I can be someone that just helps someone else not do that, then I've won.
I've never applied for a job.
Stop showing off, bro.
Fun story.
I've never applied.
No, this is fun fact. When I don't think some of us really understand, I didn't really understand this concept until I had to, face it face to face. But, when Allah says your rizq is guaranteed, do you believe that? What does it look like to actually believe that? I guess I've never applied for a job. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Allah has blessed me so much. Do you know what I majored in college? How'd you know that? Ah, man, stole the punchline, bro. I majored in English literature with a double major in religion. You know what that gets you? Unemployment. Yes, that's right. And you can work for the Muslim community. So if you want to talk about that, see me afterwards. But seriously, everyone in my family was like, you're not going to get a job. And it's for good reason. Don't major in English if you want to do that. Before I graduated, a friend of mine hit me up, was like, hey, I am shooting this video. Can you come help me with it? At the time, I was doing video, photo stuff. I was like, yeah, sure. Where is it? And they were like, it's at the Islamic Relief office. I was like, okay. So I went to the Islamic Relief office, and I was just helping to make this random video because a friend of mine asked me to, and I legitimately was just showing up for someone else. Did the video, and then in the background, there's someone I knew there, who's David Hawa. Some of you might have known. David is the Director of Marketing, Islamic Relief. He sees me and he's like, hey, Omar, what are you doing these days? I was like, I'm about to finish college. I didn't even graduate yet. I was like, I'm about to graduate college. And I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of looking for a job these days. He's like, oh, it's interesting. We have an opening on our marketing team. He said, are you interested? I was like, yes. What do I need to do? He's like, dude, just fill out this application and come in for an interview. I technically have applied for jobs, technically. But I was like, okay. And then I come in, and all of a sudden, before I even graduated, the unemployable degree that I have, I had a salary job with health benefits, everything, And I was able to do work that I love, which is doing community work. Alhamdulillah, in the past, like in my career, I've never really felt like I had to work a day in my life. Like I work, but like I love it. And had you told me 10 years ago that if you try to serve the community and you try to serve people, that you can make a life out of it, I would have been like, come on, bro. Like, yeah, you can make a life, but you're like living out of your car, and you're like, you're eating McDonald's every day because you can only afford the dollar menu. Well, like, no, like when Allah says your rizq is guaranteed, Allah means your rizq is guaranteed. But then it becomes up to me, what do I do with my life? Like, what do I do with my time? How do I show up for the people in my life? How do I show up for my community? Do I then, knowing that my rizq is guaranteed, do I then like go about, do I go about like just trying to focus on how do I maximize my rizq for myself? Or do I think about, one of my favorite quotes is like, this idea of that justice is what love looks like in public. Like, seriously, like people in this room, if you think about, do you love other people? Like actually love your community? Because when you actually love your community, it looks different in the way that you show up for them. Mm-hmm. And not constantly thinking about what Imam Merchant's talking about. Yeah, but like, it's not as good as I thought it would be, bro. Like, it's not, I went to this program at Adams and it was okay, bro. It was whatever. Yeah, but Darul Hijra has better programming, dude. And like, you just start nitpicking on every detail. And one of the hardest things I've found in my immersion is like, how do you continue to serve in what you do and continue to serve people and continue to serve Allah, even when you found that maybe the fruits of your labor go unnoticed? Or maybe like what you're trying to do is like, okay, but how am I going to actually make a living out of this? And how do I actually like translate? Maybe I'm an IT major and maybe I do like something that's like very technical, and I don't see how that can contribute to like other people, because there's nothing wrong with those, and you should absolutely go into every field that you think is good for you. But how do I actually translate like what I do in my life practically to actually also still be able to show up for people? How do you wrestle with that?
I think it's everything that you mentioned. You said that you wanted a job and your friend asked you for help and you weren't thinking about what you could get out of that, but you showed up anyways. Like, my favorite verse in the Quran is وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And those who are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will make a way out for them and provide for them in ways they could never imagine. We need to be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fear and awe of Allah. And by focusing on God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest. That doesn't mean that like I don't care about my human interaction. That doesn't mean that I don't exhaust my efforts. But it means that I'm trying to do the best that I can. And my goal is not what I can get out of this. It's me earning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a few people know one of our friends, Saba. We were talking about him the other day. Saba, shout out to Saba. One of the best human beings I know, because he doesn't need to help. But if anyone right now called Saba and said, I need help, he would come. Drive 45 minutes to be there for you. No questions asked. That's focusing on a higher purpose. That's how Sitna Asiya was able to be in the house of Fir'aun and still say, Rabbibni baytan Jannah. Oh Allah, show me my house in Jannah. That's how the Prophet ﷺ was able to be committed to doing this community work, even though, as Dr. Jackson mentions, every single year he has a major calamity that happens to his life. Children die, family die, war happens, he's wounded in war. Every single year, major community calamities happen. But if we have that higher purpose, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us He'll make a way out for us and provide for us in ways that we can never imagine. So can we shape and rethink about how it is that we're even existing? How is it that we have to exhaust our means? Prophet ﷺ said that if you truly trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will provide for you how He provides for the birds. They go out in the mornings with their stomachs empty, they come back with it full. You have to do that work. You have to exhaust your means. But the goal of that is supposed to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goal of that is how can I make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with me. And so if we can shift the perspective from filling our spiritual bank accounts. So we can shift the perspective of, well, this gives me this barakah. I'm going to pray because I'll get this number of rewards. I'm going to read the Quran because I get this many rewards. To shift it to the framework that you're saying, and I'm doing this because I want Allah to love me. I'm showing up for my friends because I genuinely care about them. I'm helping because I want you to succeed. I want you to thrive. Then that shifts the entire dynamic of a relationship that we have. And the reality is that love is actually altruistic. It's not transactional. Love is about me sacrificing, me giving part of myself. And in return, you experience that love, and then you want to give it back the same way. By me pouring out, you feel this is genuine, this is authentic. And the only response to that is two. Either I'm narcissistic and say, I want more, fill me more, or you're like, I want to be genuine and real with them too. And so to answer your question, our responsibility, all of us as community and as individuals, is to raise our perspective. To think about, well, how is it that we can earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through whatever it is that we're doing? How can I serve to a higher capacity? Whether that's when we start in our nuclear families, well, how can I be a better son or a better daughter? And how can I change the relationship with my parents so that it's not just because I want to check these boxes off, but rather because I want them to love me and because I love them. I'm going to clean the kitchen not because it's going to make mom happy or not because mom asked me to, but because it's going to make mom happy. I'm going to be kind to my siblings because they're naturally going to be kind back to me. Obviously, we're talking about under normative, healthy relationships. But then as we start to expand that circle, and it's our friend group, and the people that we are around, because perhaps we haven't even established a community. We're so focused on this title of community, and we oftentimes misconstrued organizations for actually community. These organizations are extremely important. They're here to help foster and support the community that we are supposedly building together. And so as I start to expand that circle, how do I love my friends? Who can I call at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who are the people that I can rely on? Who are the people that I feel comfortable to be vulnerable with? Who are the people that I trust and they trust me? You want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what if you don't have friends? Oh, interesting. Okay. He said, who needs friends? What if you don't have friends?
That may work now. He's like, that wasn't me, I swear to God. That may work now when things are seemingly good and you're relatively young, when you don't need friends. But in 10, 20 years, when you've all gone in different directions and you may find yourself to be lonely, that's when you wish that you'd invested before in those relationships. Friends are not necessarily important when things are good. Because you feel amazing, you're awesome, but who are the people that are going to support you when things are not? And so the real question is, why is it, to bring it back to what you're talking about, the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, why is the first thing that he did in Medina was make the mu'akha between the Muhajirin and Ansar? Why did he make brothers between those that migrated and those that helped? Because they were going through a difficult situation. And they had to be like brothers to the extent that they were willing to, you want the upstairs or downstairs? Which one do you want? You can have it. Here's half my business, take it. Because when you're going through difficulty, our ability to succeed is going to be based on who are the people around us, who are the people that are helping us. And then who are the people that are going to get us out of these toxic circles that we oftentimes find ourselves in. And we are the sum of the 5 closest people around us. Who are the minds that we're thinking about? How this talk even came about is because Omar and I text all the time. Here's an article about community. Here's some nerdy thing about community. Here's a lecture. Here's a podcast about community. Did you read this book about community? I listened to the audiobook. I didn't read it, but here's another one. We're always talking about community. So we don't have to spend that much time together because we are already aligned on this concept of building community. And so, do we sacrifice for the people? And to answer your question, what do we do if we find ourselves alone? One of the hardest things for us to do in an age when everything is catered to us feeling good. Our entire lives, we try to cater to just symptom management. I just want to feel good all the time. If you want to have friends, you're going to have to sacrifice. If you want to have friends, you're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit. You're going to have to be a little bit vulnerable. Because if you don't put yourself out there, how will someone even know that you're looking for friends? If you aren't willing to be vulnerable, why would someone want to be vulnerable with you? If we keep things on a superficial level, then everyone else is going to reciprocate on that same superficial level. And so if you find yourself alone, maybe you're introverted and you don't need a bunch of friends. But who are the small group of people that you absolutely know that you need to invest more in? And some of my friends I've had for 10, 15, 20. They go way back. Most of them don't live in the DMV area. But we text. We check in with each other. Because it's worth maintaining that relationship. It's worth investing in that he will send me a Wednesday update. Yo, what's going on, bro? Is this what's happening? I'm going to say, oh, my bad, I was busy. I'm going to send you one tomorrow. It seems superficial, but then when poo hits the fan, that's when everyone cashes in all those chips.
I see some nodding heads. I'm going to throw some controversial stuff in here to wake you all up. See people, they're already waking up. Do you think it's harder for men or women to have friends?
Women.
See what I did? Raise your hands if you think it's harder. Wow, you see that? Raise your hand if you think it's harder for women to sustain friendships.
Don't answer. Y'all are dumb.
You notice how I'm not looking at y'all? And you still raising your hand? All right, raise your hand if you think it's harder for men. Wow. Wow, interesting. So, universally, like 80% of women raise their hand. Does someone want to answer why? Of the women.
There's one less bachelor on the list.
Respect.
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's because men have more low-maintenance friendships.
They have what?
Low-maintenance friendships.
Low-maintenance friendships.
Yeah. They're a lot more easygoing. They don't fight because they don't talk about as many deep things. You know, a lot of times you ask them details they can't answer. So
I love this perspective. I love this.
Told you I'd wake them up. Fun fact.
Y'all are basic. That's what you just said.
Fun fact. I threw, my wife sent me this reel where it's 100% how men operate. It was a reel of like a couple. It was like Instagram reel of like a guy sends an invite to his group chat of like 20 dudes. He's like, yo, come over, anybody that wants to come through. And he tells his wife, hey, by the way, I might have some people over tonight. And she says, well, how many? And he says, I don't know. And she says, well, what are you guys going to do? She was like, we'll figure it out. And then she says, well, what are you guys going to eat? And he says, yeah, we'll figure it out. So like, conversely, it's also why we're lonely. Paradoxically. Sometimes it's because, do we really invest in people the same way that women do? Interesting question. What do you think? Oh. Anyone want to chime in from the men? What's the question? The question is, do you think that because, allegedly, that men's relationships are more low maintenance, they're easier to maintain long term? Okay, quality. What would you say about the quality of male relationships with each other? Lasting? Who wants to raise their hand in?
Oh boy. Buckle up.
Okay, so I will say this, that it's a lot easier for guys to like one of my friends, he's like, I'll just bring a friend over and we'll come and we'll hang out. Like, you can easily get to know other guys, but you do when you do hang around, a lot of guys, like, we have the same group of guys since Abdulmalik left us. We're definitely, he left us, yeah. We were at Mass before, and then, everything went to, poo hit the fan, like Abdulmalik said. Okay, anyways, but
How did I catch a stray?
They don't care about us, bro.
But no, alhamdulillah. So definitely, I would say for us guys, we don't care about the details as much. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, that one girl didn't invite me that one time, and then after that, khalas, that relationship's cooked, right? But for us guys,
There goes another bachelor.
like I hope my sister isn't here, but like my sister complains about this all the time. Anyways, but like us guys, like there's definitely like a small group of friends, for me at least, that I'm close to, and that we definitely pour into each other. We definitely get to know each other at like a lot, like deeper level. I'm the medic. But yeah, so in general, like I feel like we just don't care about the details as much. Like we don't like hold each other like off.
Why are y'all clapping? I'm so confused.
Any reaction here, Mal? Told you I'd wake them up.
You see how the turntables look like good story.
You know, this is actually a problem. I don't know if it's unique to the Muslim community, but I do find it often in the Muslim community. Because, mashallah, in a good way, we have this divider here all the time, the parda is there. We oftentimes don't know the opposite gender. We have like no concept of it. It's like, yeah, you know, we're superficial, so it's easy. It's like, no, we're lonely because I don't know anything about you. We just show up. You want to play a game? All right, cool, bro. Like, it's like, what we eat? I don't know. What do you even like? I don't know. And so because of that, we just stayed superficial with each other. And then we never got deeper. And so the same way it was easy for us to show up, if I lost, it was like, he was a good guy. And so sisters don't often understand, and men also have been socialized to not be able to recognize and or communicate their emotions, so we just mask it with other things. I'll just do more. I'll just get more friends somewhere else. I'm lonely, or I miss fulan, or you know, I haven't seen the homie for a long time, and I don't know what's going on. So you want to hang out? Like, let's go to Silver Diner. Like,
We love Silver Diner.
yeah, he owns stock,
Dude, if I could buy a Silver Diner, if I had the money, I would, like, just so I can live there.
So who's going to show up in community and buy my brother Silver Diner? But I mean, conversely, I think, you know, the same thing applies for women oftentimes. That there are so many expectations and fear of judgment and worry about things that we can also just stay very superficial. I think both of us are suffering in community in different ways, and we just aren't talking about it.
One of the interesting things that I found, okay, sure. So one of the interesting things that I found was that one of the specific ways in which it becomes hard to have community, and a lot of the themes that Imam Merchant and I are talking about here is because of the ways that us as individuals have contributed to the difficulty that we have in community, and to stop looking at it as just like the institutions just suck and they're terrible, but it's like, no. What can I individually as a person do about it? One of the things that comes across a lot in my lifestyle or in my life and that I've noticed is the ways in which it becomes hard to include other people in your life because you've set your life up in a way that makes it hard for other people to be part of it. Let me give you an example. Very common example. Hamza and I got married recently, but before I was married, a lot of my friends were married. And so I would start to notice that, like, there's a trip that they're all in Puerto Rico. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, they're all in Seattle now. Oh, I hope that was a good trip. You know? So because it became like a couples thing, right? And one of the things I've noticed in particular, this happens in 30 different ways. It's not just about married, unmarried. It's about older, younger.
Kids.
Kids, not kids.
How many kids?
How many kids? And the ways in which that we as individuals, like, choose to include or not include other people around us. Because, yeah, but like, you know, I want to go to Puerto Rico, you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to cost like $3,000 for this vacation. And if one of your friends is like, oh, but I don't know if I can afford that, do you then change the trip or do you kick the person out? Oh, spicy. That's my point, bro. So so that's like a very specific example, right? But like the ways in which like we ourselves want a certain life and we crave that satisfaction of having this kind of appearance of life or having fun or having a certain experience of like couples, friendships and stuff. And the way that we construct our own social lives in such a way that specifically keeps other people out, not understanding that that reflectively is going to cause your own loneliness. It's going to create the community dynamic that you yourself don't like because you're putting yourself in a box and not including diverse types of people in there. And by you creating small boxes, you're 1 degree of separation from having no friends. The moment you're no longer or within the boundaries of that group, you no longer are able to have friends anymore. It's this weird, interesting dynamic. So one of the things I think about as we start to move towards the discussion questions, ma'am, is like, how do you think about this concept of like belonging across divides, whether it be married, unmarried, older, younger? How can I as a person, like as a community member, how can I start to create the kind of community that I want to have in the world? And how can we stop looking at it from this like individual mindset of like, what am I getting out of it? What's the experience I'm getting out of it?
I think one of the first things we can do is recognize that nothing in life it's of value comes except through difficulty. You want to be a, CEO, you want to be a basketball player, you want to be whatever you want to be successful in, you're going to have to sacrifice to do it. And so if you don't want to be alone, if you want to create community, you're also going to have to sacrifice to be in community. And the second thing is, can we stop focusing on superficialities? Can we stop focusing on things that are performing privilege, that are performing happiness, and start focusing on actually what brings us happiness? A lot of things we're doing and thinking about, well, I'm doing this because it looks good or because it's perceived. I've sort of imbibed this understanding that this is what I'm supposed to do and not actually what makes me happy. And if we can start to just think that, okay, I'm going to have to challenge myself, and then what are things that I can do that actually genuinely bring me happiness? And then the third point is, what can I do to bring someone else happiness? In the confines of what I like to do, how is it that I can include someone else into that same thing? Because maybe they haven't experienced it before. Maybe it'll make them happy, or whatever it may be. How is it that I can expand what my expectations are or what I'm comfortable doing so that other people can be included in that as well? Now, obviously, married, unmarried, that becomes sort of weird social dynamics, and I can understand how these things can be. But can we create environments where everyone is organic? A lot of the problems that we have is that we've been removed from we've never even seen community. If you ask our parents and our grandparents what it was like, I'm always amazed by this. Like one of my friends, Allah bless him, like when it comes to hosting gatherings, it is like nothing. Him and his wife throw a pot of biryani on, a ginormous pot of biryani. Anyone can come, there's food. And it's without they're serving, because he grew up in a house watching his father do it. Single, married, children, not children. It just is a well-oiled machine. And so because we didn't grow up in that, for me, it's like, how this seems crazy. But can we allow ourselves to be a little bit uncomfortable? And I'll share the story in closing that I shared with him and we were thinking about this, is that we have to be able to embrace difficulty and embrace something that is challenging who we are. Sorry for those of you who heard the story before, but I'm African American, my wife is Ethiopian. Shout out to East Africans. And so when we got married, we got invited over someone's house, and she was like, "Can we stop to get juice?" And I was like, "They don't have juice for us? Like, they invited us. Like, what are you talking about?" She was like, no, it's good adab to like buy juice and take it over someone's house. You can't go empty-handed. I said, but they invited us. They should have something for us to drink. Like they know we're coming. She's like, what is wrong with you? I was like, they invited us. They will have juice. She said, wallah, if you don't stop this car, I will jump out. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like, this has become a staple in our family. That years afterwards, before I went over to someone's house, did you take something? What did you take? Was it a good gift? Was it acceptable for our family? And so now it's like, well, did you get that? I got something better than you. We're competing now. But by doing that, it challenged the entire social dynamic of my nuclear family. My mom shows up to people's houses like, yo, I got this right here. I got something. Now she takes gifts. Now it's become something that creates community in a very unique way that everyone now, because of one person challenging my social norms. And so how can we think about being with other people in ways that's outside of how we're comfortable, that is going to be a little bit awkward, but perhaps could be an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for expanding?
That's beautiful, bro. My concluding thought before we get to questions, and we'll do a little getting to know some people in the room here, is, the
Surgeon General's advice.
So the U.S. Surgeon General, the last one, not the current one, but the last one, he said that loneliness is actually an epidemic in this country. Being lonely is worse to your health than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Did you know this?
That doesn't mean it's permissible to start smoking.
That does not mean, don't. Raise your hand if you knew this statistic. Oh, wow, okay. Half. Raise your hand if you knew this. So loneliness is worse. And so I don't remember his specific prescriptions.
His prescriptions for building community were 3. We need to have relationships, we need to have purpose, and we need to have service. We have to build genuine connections with people. There needs to be a purpose as to what we're doing, a higher calling, a higher purpose, something that's motivating it, not just because of the relationship, but because we're trying to do something. And then we need to serve. We need to serve for each other, do for the larger community, and those are the 3 main components of community.
That's beautiful, bro. My concluding thought is that I have some advice for everyone. Just as an idea. I think every single person needs to become a community builder. Mm-hmm. Because the Prophet ﷺ was a community builder. And are you not trying to be like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, one of the interesting things that he did was sometimes it becomes like very hard to imagine. What does that look like? Does that mean I quit my job? Does that mean I show up to Adam Center, Qahwa every day and asking to do things for people? What does it actually mean to try to become someone who builds community? 2 things, very simple. Number 1, try to reduce suffering in some kind of way. Reduce suffering or improve something. Those are the 2 easiest ways. Suffering is loneliness. Suffering is people not having food. Suffering is suffering with your homework. Suffering is, hey, I want someone to watch the game. I don't have anybody to watch the game with.
That doesn't mean you can cheat.
That doesn't mean you can cheat. The other way is improve something. You see something like that can be done better, do it better. You see like a program that can use some volunteer support, show up and do some volunteer support. But ultimately, the way that's going to, in my life, that's helped me is what do I want for other people? And this becomes very contentious because a lot of us have lines, divisions when it comes to what we want for who. I'll give you an example. As women, would you say that you want the best for all the men in this room? As men, would you say that you want the best?
Yes, they do.
For all the women in this room? And I'm being very serious here. Because when, for example, something happens like the median income for a woman goes higher than a man's in Fairfax County. So what does that? So what does that mean? Does that mean that men still want good for women? Do you wish that success for them, or do you wish that they start to come down? This is serious. When somebody starts to perform at a level that makes you uncomfortable, and reverse for vice versa, for women, like, what does it look like to actually want the best for men? Community building isn't theoretical. It's real. It's practical. When someone comes up in front of you, what does it actually look like to want the best for them? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when the Prophet Muhammad says, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibbu li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsihi," that akhihi is not gender specific. It doesn't mean that men for men and women for women. No, it's what do you collectively want for society? And one of the hardest things I've found is finding a Muslim, I mean this seriously, finding a Muslim that collectively has a vision for other people, not just for themselves. Everyone has a vision for themselves of, yeah, I want to have a nice family, I want to have a nice house, I want to have a nice career, I want to have money. But what do you want for other people? You'll never be able to help somebody if you don't sincerely want good for them. Sincerely want them to be happy. Sincerely want them to do good in their life. And for me, like, I just wish that people would practice what the Prophet Muhammad taught us, which is to even the people who hated him, even the people who threw trash at his door, even the people who tried to kill him, even the people who did everything possible to destroy him, most of which were his own family members, he still wanted good for them. He still didn't want them to get hurt. He still wanted good for their life. He still wanted them to make money. He still wanted them to get married. He never for a second wanted something less for them, even if it was at his own personal expense. So that means, brothers, when you come across a woman that makes more money than you, what do? No, this is serious. What do? Do you all of a sudden wish that she would come down a notch? This is uncomfortable. What happens if you're a very religious man, right? Or a religious woman, you come across someone who's less religious than you. What does that interaction actually look like tangibly? Do you start to try to change them? Or do you actually want good for them? What does that actually mean? And so in thinking about this, as a community, I don't see us ever really moving forward until you have a vision for what you want other people's life to look like, Muslim and non-Muslim. And once you have an idea of I want everyone to be happy, I want everyone to have success, I want everyone's life to be filled with love and joy, and I want their bills to be paid, and I want them to have friends, and I want them to have community spaces, and I want them to have fun. If you have a vision of what other people's life should look like, that helps you to build community. And I think that everyone should build community. And that's my thought. Omar, where's Omar? Farouk.
I do that. A round of applause, please, for Imam Merchant Omar Nassimi. So if you've never been to a Qahwa event before, then you won't know